A God that requires belief in it in order to avoid eternal punishment.
Christians, this woman says that for God to require belief in him in order for us to avoid eternal punishment makes God unloving because he doesn't give us evidence as to why. I got two things to say to this. The first is this, might be kind of funny. I am glad I was born a black man under a black mother. Because let me tell you what my mother used to tell us when we did wrong. She would tell us that she's going to beat our backsides. And she was not playing, and she did do it. Now, here's what I can tell you what we did not do. When my mother made the threat and told us that if we did wrong, we were going to get beat, we didn't ask her to provide evidence that she's going to do so. We knew we didn't want to get beat. And so my thing is, I don't understand people who say stupid things like this. My mother didn't owe us an explanation as to why she would punish us for doing wrong. She told us how to identify what was wrong and said that if we did that thing that she showed us was wrong, that we were going to get spanked. And we did. But once again, we didn't ask her for evidence that she was going to do it. None of us, and I got 3 siblings, none of us wanted to test that. How much more would it be for God? Isn't it loving enough that he tells you that you have sinned against him and that what he's going to do if you don't turn from your ways, and that if you don't turn from your ways, you're going to be punished eternally? To me, that's enough. I don't need evidence to anything. I believe one thing. He said and gave us, so far, all the years of our existence, he gave us to understand what is wrong. There's not one of us who doesn't know what sin is. There's not one of us who doesn't know what is immoral. We all know. So the evidence is not about knowing if God is going to punish us or if he exists. The evidence that what he says is true is the fact that sin exists. The fact that men know what immorality is. That's the evidence, all the evidence you need. You have a guilty conscience for sin. That's all the evidence you need. But let me say something else, because she says God is not loving if he doesn't give evidence of, I guess, who he is or that he exists. Let's see. In the Bible, we read about Sodom and Gomorrah. Same sin exists today on a whole another scale. But Sodom and Gomorrah, evidence. The Red Sea, drowning Pharaoh's army, evidence. Jonah and Nineveh, evidence. Daniel in the lion's den, evidence. Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego thrown into the fire, evidence. Peter denying the Lord on the night of his crucifixion, evidence. Jesus turning water into wine, evidence. The betrayal of Judas, evidence. Any Christian worth their weight in salt can show you from the scriptures all the evidence that there is. And that's from the Bible. That does not include natural evidence that we see in creation, which I'm sure is easy for the atheistic mind to blow off. All science can do is verify what God has already done. Without God, there's no science. So science itself is evidence enough. But the fact that I know that we have sinned against the holy God. Now, you may not say it's against God, but if you embrace morality of any sort that is universal to all men, then you attest to the fact that you have suppressed the truth by your unrighteousness, but you know the truth exists, you know that morality exists, and you know that sin exists. That should be the sufficient evidence that you need to turn to God and at least ask, what's up? Because one of these days, like the rich man in Luke 16, you will die like every man will, and you will wake up immediately being in torments, with or without the evidence that you seek today. Be provoked and be persuaded.